And then also just not necessarily wanting to bring something on very quickly, which you should never do. You should, it should be a controlled adaptation. But at the same time, there was a huge fear in, especially in the crane world, maybe a little less fear because you've got people that are already using cranes, they're already comfortable with it, they're used to things like that. But when you bring in something so new and so innovative, I think there is quite a lot of pushback because there's such a big, you're dealing with people and you're dealing with a construction site. You're dealing with a lot of things that can go wrong, even with weather out of your control. And so there is that big emphasis, and what I saw a lot of the times is fear, which is completely reasonable. But that's where the educational part comes in, and that's where you and I and the podcast and different things and come in to just kind of bring everybody together, educate them on what's working, what's not, and then that way you can see for yourself and you can judge for yourself as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're not asking anybody to take a leap of faith here. We're asking them to take the time to educate, right? And I completely agree. And that's what we're here to do. And that's why we, invest in awareness. We invest in situational awareness. We invest in the education parts, and we get out in front of everybody as much as we can. So.
Now, I know you brought up the pre-con side. I've been in conversations actually on, I believe it was episode 3, with Chad Jacobs from Stevenson Equipment, who's the tower crane specialist. He was explaining to me that in the crane world, the planning is so crucial, to every project for a multitude of reasons, especially ROI. And so are you guys involved in the pre-con side of things with your product when you get involved, or is it just a matter of getting onto the site and educating the operators and the guys that are, the workers on the site?
Yeah, we aim to be, we want to be, involved in the pre-con. There's a lot of times where clients might see us as a last resort because they haven't worked it into their pre-con, and sometimes that's just simply a communication thing too between the pre-con teams and some of the other project management teams. But that's where we want to be, and I think that's where we're going to live more in the future too, as teams are aware of us. Sometimes, like I said, they don't become aware of us until they need us. Um, that being said, when it comes to the crane companies, and some of that is even moving into a job site, right? The most expensive part of utilizing a crane is getting it into the site and out of the site, especially if it's a large crane. Um, we get involved when it comes to the planning of the rigging. And so, whether that is urgently or whether that is during the pre-con phase, we are definitely involved in that because we're supporting teams from a standpoint of how do we implement our technology into an existing lift or into a future lift that you're planning out, right? Either way, our model's the same though. We have everything we need to be able to dive right in and quickly evaluate and help guide those teams and how to change or how to build out what they're doing. And that's a valuable piece of what we're trying to do and what we do. It also builds trust, and it shows that we're credible and we're educated and we have the experience in the industry to do those things too. So.
Okay, great. And are you seeing friction between, operations, engineering, field teams, pre-con? Is there friction there, or are things usually running pretty smoothly?
It depends. Every company has a different atmosphere. Ideally, everybody wants to have that clear, communicative, strong leadership, build
Yeah,
out. But the
yeah.
reality is that there's a number of teams that don't. And if they don't, it's harder for us, especially trying to bring something new. And I think a lot of teams that have trouble communicating and have trouble, um, being organized or getting along with their ideas, I think they're the ones that push back on change. I think they're the ones that are reluctant to be innovative, even though they might even have an innovations team that's all they do. They might not even communicate with their innovations team or see eye to eye with them. I've seen that pushback indirectly. It's not something that their overall team, I think, admits is happening. And it ends up usually pushing out these new, innovative, good ideas, whether it be process or whether it be equipment. And until that's fixed, In my opinion, until that's fixed, I don't think that they're going to be quickly to embrace anything new. Whether, like I said, it's a policy change or a piece of equipment, they need to fix that rudimentary issue before they can progress towards improvement.